Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. Shira Litzar here, joined by Vern Schellinger and Alki Thompson. We are happy to help answer job search questions. And Mark is our solo participant today. So Mark, you're going to get our full time and attention unless anyone else joins us. And actually, as we get going, Mark, I know you had me make an introduction for you
Yes.
to a community banker. Well, what occurred to me is I know Vern, you had helped Mark, right, with the ABA.
Yeah, done that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in addition, it occurred to me, I don't know if Vern, you had talked to Mark about this, but then there's the ICBA, the Independent Community Bankers of America. Their members are exclusively community banks.
Right.
I actually went on there. So they're an old client of mine. Then I went this morning on their website. Now it didn't say anything about, board positions, right?
Mhm.
But that said, if you put in, they have a bank locator tab, I think. So if you put that in and put your zip in, it'll show you the community banks that are their members that are local to you.
Mhm.
And maybe you could do an outreach, like Eagle Bank is on there, and
Right.
other ones. So, if that's helpful, and maybe there's some connections you can
Sure.
make through that. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, Vern, I actually have spoken with a bank this week. I'm not sure that they're looking, but a friend at ABA was helpful in setting up the contact and meeting. So how I left it with him was, if if he hears of anything he thinks might be of interest to me, let me know. But I don't think that they're interested in me at this point.
Are board positions with banks, do you have to be a local person, or it could be a national thing?
It's a national thing.
Okay, so maybe ICBA is a good resource, because I don't know how easily community banks get board members, so.
Yeah, yeah. The sense I get is initially when they are being founded, it's whoever the founding members know, and I think this is what the bank that I interviewed with, Cambridge, I think this is what they're doing now. They're reconfiguring their board to make it more attractive. It's a closely held bank. They may want to go public, and so they want more of a celebrity board that would attract investors. So I think that's sort of the process that the banks go through when they're looking for directors. So I guess in my case, I can. There's a lot of regulatory expertise I can bring, but I can't bring a lot of glitz to it. If they're looking for glitz to attract investors, I'm probably not the right person.
But could be other banks where you are, where they need that regulatory expertise. So,
yeah.
So how else can we help you with your search? Done the banking thing. Is there anything else you like some advice on? You got the floor.
Thank you.
Anything that perplexes you about job search?
Yes, LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. Sure. Tell us what part of LinkedIn is befuddling you.
I think what is befuddling me is the requirement that you have not referrals, but
recommendations?
Testimonials.
They call them recommendations.
Yeah, recommendations. And I guess you're supposed to make recommendations too. What does one do about that?
Sure. So first of all, let me just add some clarification. It's not a requirement. It's a nice to do and a strong encouragement to do. So there's no requirement there. However, it can be very helpful. So I'll share with you the who, the what, and then the how. Okay. So the who ideally should be, let's start with supervisors. Okay. Those are always great, but they don't have to be just supervisors. But what really is the sort of rule of thumb is professional colleagues. So
Right.
whether that is, coworkers, direct reports, board members, right? Anybody who sort of knows you professionally, not a friend, not a family member. I just have to say that because this is a public, we're recording this, so if people know, they should know, that's not who you want. You definitely want people who know you professionally. And number one. Number two, in terms of the what, like meaning what should they say? You want them to speak to your brand. Whatever brand you're trying to put out there, that's what they should speak to. So if you're trying to, showcase, in your case, your regulatory expertise or what have you, or a way of thinking that you have, that's how you should go. Because people can say all kinds of lovely, nice things that have nothing to do with your brand. In fact, could be off brand and make people think, So my very small example of this, many years ago, I was looking up somebody's LinkedIn profile, and it was a potential candidate, and I guess one of the recommenders said, oh, so-and-so, Susie, she's so detailed and blah, 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 which is lovely, but I was looking for someone who was strategic, okay, like that. So it could be perfectly great competency, but not the right brand for you. So you want to prompt your recommender to speak to whatever competencies you want to be showcased. And with that, let me give you the how. I'll give you the technical how first. So let me just I'm going to share screen. Now, do you have any recommendations right now that's going to matter in terms of how I train you in this?
I have not asked anybody.
Asked somebody yet. Okay, so you don't have any yet. All right, so here's the only reason why I'm asking you that is because the way LinkedIn is set up. So first of all, the way you do it is, you go to your editable page.
Okay.
And you go down to the bottom here. Okay, under recommendations. Now, first of all, if you don't have any recommendations yet, this section is not going to show up. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to go, I would do the first thing you should do is actually go to somebody that you want to ask for a recommendation. Now, here's the thing, Mark, it has to be somebody who's a first level connection. You have to be first level connected. The second level or third level will not work. So I'm just going to do Alki. Okay. So let's pretend I wanted Alki to give me a recommendation. So I pull him up, open up his profile. I go down to, I go down to the more button here, Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
And go to request a recommendation. And now it's going to give you a couple little prompters. So what's your relationship to this person? See, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, I'm just going to pick one for now. Position at the time, whatever position is it he's recommending you for. And then here, you see how it says, hi, Alki, would you write me a recommendation, please? Now, that's just LinkedIn's standard nomenclature. Of course, you want to change that. So instead of, my suggestion for you is, instead of just reaching out through this platform, because this is somebody who's personal to you, right, that you're going to ask for a recommendation, skip this part for the moment. Go straight to the person. Text them, email them, send them a carrier pigeon, whatever.
That's what I would do, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Say, hey, Alki, I'm up leveling my LinkedIn profile. Would it be okay if I sent you a request for recommendation? And he'll say yes, right? And then in that email or in that outreach, in that phone call, say, hey, thanks for agreeing. And would you please highlight these competencies or blah, blah, blah. And then when you send the recommendation request in here, it's, hi, Alki, thanks for agreeing to write my blah, blah, blah. And as a friendly reminder, would you please include XYZ competencies? Okay. You send it, he'll receive it, he'll write it, you'll get it back. And when you get back the note, before you hit the publish button, there's actually a button that says edit or ask for an edit. Meaning if there is something you want him to edit, you can't edit it. He'd have to edit it.
Sure. Okay.
And then you go back until you get the rest, go back and forth until you get the final approval. Then you'd hit publish and it'll go, so you understand, it'll go on the top. It will show up. I'm sure you've got some too, right? It'll show whatever one you get, it goes chronologically. So so if you have a bunch of them, the first couple are the ones that are going to show. And you can't reorder them, just so you're aware of that. Okay. But
Okay.
my rule of thumb is you can't have too many. So just go for it, right? Just absolutely go for it, because you want different people from different parts of your life who can shed some light. And especially if there's some consistency, it's really helpful. If people are saying the same kind of thing about you,
well, it reinforces the brand. Yes.
It really supports the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my long speech. Alki or Vern, any other thoughts on that?
I just emphasize that, in the job search process, everything you do, you're trying to communicate who you are and what your skills are and so forth and so on. And you do the best job you can. But the recommendations kind of, here's people who have worked with you validating what you're communicating to people, in interviews or talking to people. And if people look at your LinkedIn profile, it gives you a much stronger presence for people to want to reach out or talk to you. So,
okay.
It's I mean, the whole subject is not foreign to you. Just, referrals, recommendations it's really a referral, a recommendation. But I've told people through the years, especially job seekers searching, honestly, it is, and it can be, a whole job search strategy by itself. Or, I guess it depends, but you can almost not apply for any jobs, but build up some strong recommendations, and you would hope that somebody would see it. But you can it's almost a job search strategy by itself, depending on, because it's basically a resume that somebody else is telling on your behalf, and it's validated proof, like, hey, when he worked with us, or when we were his client, XYZ, and it speaks directly to what you do. Because everybody, we all see people on LinkedIn and we take people's word for it, but you would love to have somebody else who preaches on your behalf. So
yeah, no, I realize that it's important part of the search strategy. I just have been very put off by the technicalities of it.
Yeah,
a little bit of a technophobe and of an older generation, and or fluency in this area than I see possess.
Especially some of the things that you kind of shared with us, one of your hurdles or challenges. That is a great way to combat some of that, possibly, is to have people, vouching for some of those, with your challenge you've shared with us.
Thank you. It's helpful.
Shira, when is the LinkedIn session that you're doing?
Training. Oh, thank
training?
You for suggesting that, Vern. Yeah.
This
So
may
Mark,
help
Yep.
Mark get a little more comfortable with LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yep. So I regularly give a LinkedIn training to a group called JCA. They're a job seeker group. It's so that I do it like every month or every other month. Anyway, this one's coming up on Monday the 22nd from 9:30 to 11:30. And basically it's part of a week-long course, the $75 course that they provide for 50+ job seekers. Anyway, so I'm just like a guest speaker on LinkedIn that day. So if you, Mark, you'd have to send me an email as a prompter. When I get the Zoom link, I don't have it yet, but when I get it, I'll forward it to you. They're open to me having a guest or two or whatever.
Well, thank you very much.
You can jump in. It's a full training. It's a full training on LinkedIn. It's 2-hour training. LinkedIn.
Right. Well, that's fine. What's the date again?
Yeah. So Monday, January 22nd.
22nd. Okay. Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. No, that's about it. I mean, I've got to get that squared away. That is the whole setup there, and I appreciate Vern. I appreciate all that you have done. Uh, Jamie continues to be a resource, and she's gone above and beyond the call of duty. Shara, thank you also for extending yourself here. I have not done much networking in this, and I realize I've got to step that up considerably. And so both of you have been very helpful in getting me started on that process. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Continue go. Every time you talk to somebody, your goal should be at the end of that conversation to ask for another referral. Right.
That's what I've been
Who
trying
else
to
do you know so-and-so that could
Yeah.
benefit from my skill set? That's a good way to phrase it. Not who do you know that has a job, right? But who do you know that could benefit from knowing about me?
And you might,
exactly.
you might have 10 conversations like the one you mentioned earlier, you know, in the call where you had this meeting and it was a cordial meeting, and, you know, but they weren't looking for someone like you right now. And you said, you know, if you hear of anything, let me know. You may have 10 of those and you never hear from any of those 10 people. You know, they've never heard of anything, or they forgot about you or whatever. But the 11th time, somebody then refers you. So it's just, you just need to, the more people you talk to and the more people you tell your story to, the greater likelihood someone somewhere is going to hear of something or connect you to someone who's really going to be helpful in your job search.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yes, it has started to work for me in the past. Last time I was looking, I was had extensive discussions with one person who was in the mortgage area, and it was a trade group, and they didn't have anything. They came up with a job after I'd gotten employed by the government, so it did work. It didn't work quite the time span that I needed it, but yes, it can work.
Yes, well, yeah, it definitely can work.
Well, I guess that's all I've got. But again, I appreciate the assistance you've given me and your counsel. And I wish you all a happy New Year.
Yep.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Maria, welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you, Shara. Appreciate it. Good New Year to everyone.
Yeah. All right. So we are here to answer your job search questions. What might they be?
Well, I have a couple. I know you're the LinkedIn expert, and so I do have questions about that because I've been on LinkedIn for years, but I've just never really utilized it the way I know it can be used. And so I'm working on doing that now. And so a question I have for you, a couple of questions. One is, because my job ended December 1st and I'm working on updating my LinkedIn profile, I added an about, some text, some verbiage to the about section that I never used before. And so I'm just wondering what your opinion is on that, if that's really necessary, because I've spoken to some folks, like my daughter, for instance, who's been in the nonprofit sector for 20 years since she graduated college. And she was saying, you know, I never really even paying attention to those about sections. And so after she said that, I started noticing that a lot of my former colleagues and people I know, they are using those about sections and they're pretty lengthy. Right. And she had mentioned too that she said, well, if I see if it's got the, what says there's more, that link, she says, I typically don't even read that. And for me, I'm not one of those too long, didn't read people. I read everything. And so, but I will still read it, even when I see those links, I still read them, even though it's lengthy, because I just want to see what's there. Right. So, so I was just wondering what your opinion is on that, because I know
I absolutely have an opinion on that. Yeah.
So
here's the deal. I'm going to give you a big old lovely. It depends. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So it depends on not only the person, as in who that person is and whether they're a reader or not. Okay. But also what kind of role they're playing when they're looking at your profile. If it's just a colleague, they may or may not care to open it, like whatever, it's just quickly looking at her profile, and they may not necessarily need to read the about section. If it's an employer, if it's a recruiter, if it's somebody who's looking at your LinkedIn profile because they're vetting you,
right,
they might very well open it. In fact, if they do, what's typically they're going to do is they're going to look at the headline first to kind of see quickly, who is this person? Like, what do you do with them? They'll probably jump down to the experience section to say, okay, what has she done? If those two things align with what they're looking for, then they will likely open up the about section. It's the same thing as when you look at a website. If you go to you as just as a regular consumer, okay, how do you even get to a company's website? Well, first of all, you have an interest. You're looking for a appliance. I don't know. You're looking for something, right? So
Right.
somehow you get there. You do the 2-second scan. Is this the right company for me? Quickly, you make literally 2 seconds. You decide if then if it is, you'll stay on longer. You'll click on that button and this button and read. And does that make sense?
It
So there's
does.
no generic response to you. It's literally like whose eyeballs are looking. Because frankly, Maria, literally your LinkedIn profile is a website. I don't know if you realize that. It is its own URL. It's a www.linkedin.com/in/your name tagline, right?
I didn't
It
realize that.
actually it is a website.
Okay.
So you have to think of it as if you were Maria Inc. Okay.
Yes.
And somebody was coming to check you out. Who are they? Who are they? Why are they coming to you? Why are they interested in you? They're just a friend. Maybe just a quick glance. And if
Okay.
not, if they're serious about hiring you, they are likely to actually read something. And therefore, and I happen to be somebody who writes LinkedIn profiles for a living, right? So I have I have a real strong lens on this. I write about sections. Like I believe in about sections because I believe that if somebody's going to take the time to read it, you need to have something compelling. And it should be something more than just what I call the vanilla bio or like that 3
Yeah.
or 4 line thing. It should speak to your brand, who you serve, how you serve, why you serve, written in a very compelling way that speaks to the market, your market, the eyeballs you're trying to reach, not your friends, right?
Right.
Your your future employers, where you can say, these are the problems that I help people solve. And these are
Right.
the skills that I use. It. Now, people write it in different ways. Some people write it in kind of a quick linear way. I happen to write it in a pretty compelling way, but that's just a difference. It's a style thing in terms of how, how much color you want to add to
Right.
the profile, right? But I would, regardless, be thoughtful and be intentional. That is what I would share with you. Don't be sort of casual and again, just write a few lines. But that means you have to know your brand. What are you transitioning to? So Alki
Okay.
or Vern?
Yeah, I mean, everything she said is 1,000% on point, including the part where it's also to each their own. What you write there. I'm a recruiter. I've looked at a billion LinkedIn pages of candidates. I've read some about pages. When what she mentions about like it's like a website and the about us part of a company's website. I was just thinking also like a book cover, an author on the back. You see the cover. Hey, I heard this was a great book. So you've heard all these things about the book. That person has skills. They have something to give. They have something to value, and what they can do. But a lot of us flip over, like, let me read about this author. Where did they grow up? Where are they from? It gives a little bit more color to who you are. And so, to her point, since that's a website and it's really a resume. It's a website resume with a
Right.
picture. And LinkedIn has been changing as time has moved on, as well. I think it kind of starts to mirror a little bit of the feel of like, a dating profile, a social media page. So it adds more sections. We were just talking about the recommendation section. So the about you, it can be short, it can be long. Honestly, as a recruiter, I'm probably not wanting to read a whole book for somebody's about. But if I look and see what you've done, like she said, and I'm like, oh wow, she's qualified. And then I see, you made some great quote, like, hey, I once, saved 500 children from a burning building, and that's my passion. Though, that's compelling. She was talking about, writing something compelling. So if I did one, to her point, I would make sure that it adds something else that's a little different than what your resume is, that gives some insight that appetizes me as a recruiter to go, oh yeah, I want to know more about her. I've got to call her. So if you're going to use it, I would say make it compelling.
Okay, well, thank you
And
both. That was very helpful.
yeah, I would just add that whether you're in the job search or not in the job search, um, that about section, and then and to Elke's point and Shira's point, the whole fact that this is a website, this is your message to whoever looks at it, whenever they look at it, how much they look at it. It's the message about who you are and what you bring to the party and what your skills are. So, it behooves you to take some real time and really put it out there and do the best job you can to represent yourself to the millions of people on LinkedIn. Now, only maybe a few hundred might look at your, out of the millions that are there, but it's those few hundred that are going to get that message. So,
Thank you very much. It's very
You're
helpful.
Any other questions? Anything that's perplexing you about your job search? Or just, if you want to even just share with us your own, again, we're small today, so you want to share with us what you're up to, what your job search is like, what you're looking for, we can help brainstorm with you.
Well, I do have another question regarding that. And because of the holidays, I really haven't had a chance to do as much as I wanted to on it. But I was noticing as I've been reading, other profiles too of folks that I know, I've noticed that even some of my former colleagues, they've on their for the most recent job, it's showing that they're still working where we don't work anymore. And
Oh,
for me, and one person's been gone for maybe a year and a half,
oh,
it's
wow.
showing that
Mm.
as a couple of folks that's just showing that they're still working there. And I didn't do that. And that's one reason I wanted to go ahead and add the about section, because I wanted to be clear that this is not what I'm doing anymore, and this is what I'm um, wanting to achieve. So having seen that, I just wondered about that. Is that something that people do? They just leave where they were working on their profiles, or is that
Some
standard?
people,
But for me, I
yeah,
didn't do it.
some people do that intentionally.
Um,
Some people do that,
Because
some people do that accidentally because they just forget to update their profile.
right.
But no, you should be ethical and just,
Okay.
yeah. And I actually have to press pause. Alki and Vern, can you keep going? I just have to take a quick call. I'm sorry.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, one of the things that you really want to, again, this is your message. And if Alki's reading it as a recruiter or anybody else is reading it, you want to make sure that what is there is accurate.
Right.
I can tell you a short, funny story. I was with my grandson over the holidays, and he showed me his resume. He's a sophomore at Ohio State University, and he's got his GPA on there, and the GPA is 3.72. Well, that was his resume in his freshman year, his first semester. I know his second semester of the freshman year, he didn't have a 3.72. Okay. Now he just finished his first semester as a sophomore, and he got, I don't know, 2 A's and 3 B's or something. So I know he's got a GPA. But my point to him, and I told him, when I'm going to visit him in the spring, I'm saying, all these fraternity brothers, they told me what to do and put all these things down there. The one thing they don't think about is, and I'm going to do a role play with him on this, is so Jake, your GPA shows a 3.72 on your resume. I just contacted the academic folks at Ohio State, and they said your GPA is not 3.7.2. How do you explain that? Right? And people, whatever's on your resume, you better be able to speak to. And obviously, if it's not accurate, that could really hurt you in any kind of job search. So take the time and keep it up to date, and that's my advice.
And to echo that, and Shira said too, sometimes people forget. I can't count how many times I'm going down someone's resume in an interview, and I'm like, okay, so you're still at Bob's Burger. and they're like, "Oh, no, 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 I left there 6
I
months
left
ago."
it, right. I hear that a lot too.
So the first thing I think, because it's not my first rodeo seeing it, but a lot of that depends. So if it's been, if they left a week ago, I'm like, all right, it's just a week ago. I kind of get it, but you did apply for this job and you didn't update it. So it's not a matter that you didn't have time, but you didn't for whatever reason. So I've continued the interview. But that becomes just a little note in my head. And then I've had people who I've done that with, and then I move on to other things. And when they start explaining that, then that tells me, okay, let me back up my whole interview questioning here and just make sure the person that I'm dealing with is on a certain plane. You mentioned a year and a half. Yeah, you I think you did the right thing. I've seen that too on LinkedIn. I've seen there's a lot of people on LinkedIn who don't update. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe in 2023, but there's a lot of people who still, it's not fully up to date, but a year and a half, to Vern's point, if you're ever asked about it, you better have an answer. If somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I don't really look at my LinkedIn anymore," they might still get hired. But if you get asked about that question, you got to be prepared to answer any question of anything that you put out there. We were talking about the about page. So on any resume, whatever you put up there, you got to be ready to answer any question about anything that's on there. So I definitely think you did the right thing. And especially a year and a half, that person's going to have explaining to do with whatever recruiters they come across.
Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. Be ethical and honest always.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you may want to actually encourage your colleagues, say, "Hey, so-and-so, I noticed that your LinkedIn is an update. You may want to update that so that you can prompt them."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's going to be the first question a lot of people ask. So you're still at,
Right.
you're like, "Oh, no, no,
No,
I
I'm
left
not.
here a year
Yeah.
and a half ago."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Maria,
Really?
what type of job are you looking for? What's your background? What are some of your key skills? What do you know?
It's interesting you asked that. The type of work I've done for all of my adult life has been administrative, executive assistant type work,
Okay.
but it's not the type of work I want to do anymore. And the only reason I got into that type of work was because I took typing in high school because I was preparing for college, and back in the day before the internet, and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and my brother, who was in college at the time, both said, "Well, you need to take typing so you'll be able to type your research papers quickly." So I said, "Okay, I'll take typing." So I took 1 semester of personal typing, not expecting to use it as a career, but just so I could type. But then I got married, started my family, and it was hard to stay in school. So I wound up dropping out, going back a couple of times and still dropping out and not getting to finish. But because I could type, one of the first job I got when I first dropped out of college was doing word processing, which I had never heard of. And when I interviewed, the HR manager asked, "So you familiar with word processing?" I said, "No, I have no idea what that is." And she explained it to me. And then she said, "Well, if you can read and write, just take the manual, go learn how to do it." And so I taught myself word processing and I loved it. And so I stayed with it because this is what I had done for so many years. But now that all of my 5 children are adults and they have their own children, I've started to think more about what I want to do, which is not that type of work anymore. So I really have a passion for direct services, and specifically homeless, houseless. I know they're referred to as houseless. I keep saying homeless, as houseless women who've been abused. And I've done some volunteer work at House of Ruth here in DC. And that's what I really want to get into, because I do have a passion for that type of work. I've done, as I said, I've done some volunteer work there. And when I was doing those trainings, I was teaching on self-care. And I just felt so in my element because it just felt like this is what I was called to do. And so that's the approach I'm taking. I'm rebranding myself essentially because I really want to do that type of work. But I know that Shira had told me I really had to be careful about how I do that because my experience is in administrative work, not in the work I want to do. So I have to find a balance between how do I showcase the skills that I have, the passion that I have, but also the skills that I have so that someone want to hire me, even though I've not done that type of work before. But again, I do have the passion for it, and I've just done a lot of research on it. And plus, I really want to do counseling. Actually, I'm going back to school to get my degree. I want to do counseling, essentially, is what I want to do. But I want to do coaching too. But I still want to be in that realm where I'm helping, and not necessarily just women, but just helping people in general. I sort of see myself as a change agent, someone who can be someone to listen and help folks who are navigating, like the women who are in the houseless situations, to be able to listen to folks and encourage them and be their cheerleader, just to encourage them to move on to the next thing, to inspire them, I guess, sort of. And so that's where I see myself. I'm still working on how to phrase all that, because I know I need to have an elevator pitch. It's just one or two sentences, but that's essentially what I want to do. And I'm even fine with being like an administrative coordinator or something like that at a place like House of Ruth, where if I'm not necessarily working with women, I'm still in that space. Because I know they even have a counseling center, and I had talked to the executive director there about a position that's coming up, but I don't know when it's coming up. And even though it'd be an administrative role, I'd be happy doing that just to be in that space.
Thanks.
But
Yeah.
a long term, I want to do coaching, and I want to also get my degree in counseling.
Yeah, that could be a great way to get your foot in the door.
Put in the door. That's it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
frankly, even if it's not a full-time role, a lot of people start out that way in volunteering.
Yes.
So what you may want to do, I think we had talked about this when we had our private conversation, is have your job,
Yes.
right? The thing that pays you money. And then
Right.
you do your volunteering, and your volunteering can get you the experience so that eventually you can make the shift.
And so how do I navigate that too then, as far as if I'm wanting to get into this new space and I want to show the passion for that, but at the same time, I don't want to appear to folks who might have an administrative position that would pay the bills. And I wouldn't want them to look at that and think, oh, she's not really serious about this. She wants to do counseling. She wants to get her
Sure.
coaching certification.
It's a great question. It's actually an excellent question. So you're right. If you pursued a full-time traditional executive assistant job and had this stuff on the side. Now, on the one hand, look, there are a lot of people who have passions on the side. A lot of people who do volunteering have regular full-time jobs. So that's normal. But in your case, you actually are trying to make a career pivot. That's the reality.
Yes.
So you may not want to go after a traditional full-time job. The beauty about what you do, Maria, in life, which is different than what a lot of other professions, is that your kind of work and administrative work lends itself to virtual work. In fact, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this concept of a virtual assistant.
Yes.
That's a
I
whole
am.
profession unto itself, which means it's your own little business. Take whatever gig work you want, totally fine. Do it. There's no commitment. It's just contract work, right?
Yes.
That is could be a really easy way for you to earn income and legitimately have this other thing on the side, so that as you build your skills and connections in the one, you can siphon off the other. For you, that could be a great way to make that transition.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, what I would do if I were you, I would let all your friends know, like really your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, people in your world, and say, hey, I'm doing virtual assistant work now. If you have any administrative projects, let me know. Right. And typically, you can, and I would talk to some virtual assistants about rates, but my understanding generally is anywhere between like 35 to 65 an hour, sort of, depending upon the kind of project. The more substantive the project, the more you can charge. There is an association called the International Association of Virtual Assistants. Okay. And I'm telling you, it's a whole cottage industry. I would talk to some, I'd go on LinkedIn, type in virtual assistant, see if people would be willing to talk to you. Ask them what their business model is like, how much they charge, what they offer. And then you would just go around to your colleagues and say, I'm available for, freelance administrative work. Most people have something. They need you to research something. They need you to schedule something. They need you to plan a meeting. They need you to whatever,
Okay.
And depending on your skills, maybe you know how to do websites. Maybe you are good in graphics. Maybe there's a lot of administrative work that's out there that people just need piecemeal help. They don't need a full-time administrative assistant.
Right.
Ask your friends and colleagues for a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there, cobble together some income that could support your volunteer work.
I
Yeah.
see.
And
Okay.
Maria, I put my email address in the chat. I can also introduce you to a recruiting firm who specializes in placing virtual assistants.
Oh,
Okay, and I hired a virtual assistant a year ago, and this recruiting firm did an exceptional job. I was just very impressed with the whole process from beginning to end. And if nothing else, the woman you'll talk to, Jennifer Dale, it'll be an educational, informational interview for you to learn more about, and go a little bit deeper than what Shira just, gave you as an overview.
okay.
So, all right,
All right. Thank
just
you.
email me and I'll send you the contact information.
Okay. Thank you. Will
All right.
do.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. So, other questions that we can help you with? Or Mark, anything else has come up for you too?
No, I'm going to have to roll off. I've got a doctor's appointment, but thank you all for your
Okay.
continuing advice and support, and
You're
have a
welcome.
good weekend.
Happy New
Hey,
Year.
Mark, take
Bless you.
care.
Take
Yep.
care.
Anything else we can answer for you, Maria?
Well, I think that's probably it because that's really where my focus is right now, and
Yeah.
just trying to balance all that because I do still need to have income, but at the same time, I want to have the freedom to be able to do the other work too, even doing as a volunteer, but still have income coming in at the same time. So if I can manage that, that would be perfect.
Mhm.
Virtual assistant.
I think you got people around you who could benefit from your skill set.
You're you're in a great position. I used to recruit a lot of EAs and various administrative people. And it's funny, I did mission work before I became a recruiter, and it's funny, I miss it often, but I had to do the reverse career pivot. So the mix of that passion and mission work and change work with your skill set and back, I mean, everybody needs the skill set you have, and it doesn't, it could be the title of administrative. It could just be what Shira does a lot with people, is to look back at your background and the billions of skills and things you've done through the years with your, whole suitcase full of abilities and capabilities. Because I know you all have to do everything.
Yes.
Sometimes on call 24 hours. And you've helped everyone. I haven't been a part of or met a mission organization yet who can't use someone like you. So merging them together, that's actually a beautiful thing to me, because to see those two worlds collide. Yeah, you're in a good position.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You all have been so encouraging.
Yeah, you guys don't get paid enough. I did a lot of work with kids and youth too. You and teachers, you all and teachers, I think. And I've had a lot of teachers say, hey, Alki, I'm done with teaching. I want to come find a job in the real world. I've told them often, oh my, it's hard to translate your resume though, a lot of times, but what you've done, the skill set and the knowledge set and the knowledge base is incredible. So a lot of upside to you, and wish you the best as you journey on.
So I wanted to share with you a link, Maria. It's something called the Catalog for Philanthropy. And I put the DC link because you're in the DC area, right?
I am.
Yeah. And so it's got a whole bunch. And when I say a whole bunch of local charities, local philanthropic organizations, any
Okay.
one of which might be able to use you as a volunteer, gig work, what have you. So I would check them out and I go one by one and
Okay.
start making some calls.
Okay. I got it. Thank you. I will do
Those,
that.
those people are some of the first too. When they look them, they're like, you're always helping. Yeah, we got a job for you. I've seen that happen a lot too, where it's like, yeah, you've been around, you know everything that we do, you know everybody that we have an opportunity opening up, or sometimes they create one. So yeah, you're in a good space.
Thank you. I'm just really, really excited to be here because I've known for a while that this is the type of work I wanted to do, but because I was just focused on bringing in income, I didn't
Yep.
think about it
Yep.
much. And then when my job was ending, and I just had this total transformation of how I saw myself, and thought about what I wanted to do, and I thought, this is perfect. I need to start focusing on what I know that I was called in this world to do, outside of having my 5 beautiful children. But I knew there was something else that God wants me to do, and I know this is it. And so I'm really excited to get started. In fact, I had lunch with one of my former colleagues before I left. And it was interesting how we were talking about some issues he'd had with his father. And I mentioned to him, I said, well, I think that, as a mom myself, I really feel that most parents are doing the best they can. I think most parents really want to do their best. And if they're not doing their best by their children, I don't think it's intentional. It's just that whatever reason, maybe the way they were raised, they just aren't able to do what you as a child expects them to do. And when I said that to him, he looked at me and it was just like a light bulb went on in his head. He said, oh, so maybe my father, I guess I should think differently about my father. And I just thought, just in that moment, seeing how he just sort of really transformed right there before my face, just talking to him, that he had a different opinion because he had told me that he really spent time with his father because he was trying to please his mother. He really didn't want to spend time with him at all. And after we had that brief conversation about it, he said, oh, I guess I need to think differently about my father. And so I thought then, yes, this is what I want to be doing. I mean, just that very brief instant, I thought this just really, it just permeates all throughout my whole spirit, my whole soul, that this is what I want to do, to be able to be there to help folks, just simple things like that.
Yeah.
So that type of material that permeates,
Mhm.
that's the type of material that could be in an about section if worded correctly. And as you rebrand yourself, what you just demonstrated organically, those are the types of things, even for a career shift. And Cher's probably told you, but if you're doing a resume too, instead of all of your past, you could lead off with the values you bring to the table, but also, what you're about, so that people know, like, wait a minute, she did this, but this is who she is now. This is where she's heading now. So as you think about your about page, kind of what you just, some of that passion or what you're about now, that's what people need to know. We saw what you've done. What are you about now? That's the kind of thing that kind of sometimes can go into your about section too. So,
I wrote a LinkedIn profile for somebody who, I think what I wrote for her might be helpful to you as a model, maybe. She's in a different space. She's in the in the education space, but I think just the way we wrote this might be inspirational for you.
Okay.
So go ahead and take a look at that, because we really spoke to mission, her mission about helping underserved children and so forth. And so maybe there's a parallel there for you.
Okay. We'll do that. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, there's a way to write it in a very compelling way where you're speaking to the heart, your mission and who you want to serve and
I see.
how, and like that.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, this is great. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome, Maria. God bless you. And anything else we can share with you?
No, I think that'll do it.
All right. Well, I'll formally close the call and then you can stay on for the prayer call if you like.
Okay.
All right.
Will
All right.
do.
Just